Hey everyone, welcome to Rad Gamer Dad's podcast, episode 3. Wait, no,
It's
that's 2.
two. It's two.
It's 2. You
Can't
got
count
me on
again.
this 0123 namings. Oh man, it's
We.
episode 2. You were just saying, Luke, how good I was at doing this, and look at this. I don't even
I
know what
jinxed
episode
you.
we're
Yep.
on.
And this is the intro.
We're
Yeah.
keeping it.
My name's Andy.
My name's Rob.
I'm Ethan.
I'm Josh.
I'm Luke.
And we are, yes, most of us, the Rad Gamer Dads. He's a lad. We're going to be talking about video games today and how it affects our lives. What role do video games play in our lives? We've been playing games for a long time, collectively, individually, and it started at different points for everyone. And I think that, as we grow up and get into different avenues here of what we do with our lives, gaming is still there, but it takes different forms. So I want to pose the question here that what role does gaming have in your lives? My life. I'll go first. So, um,
Always gotta go first.
um, what role it has in my life? It's entertainment. I don't read books, if you can't tell. I'm real.
Andy, there's a big difference between I don't and I can't.
I'm real
Just playing.
learned. But no, I don't normally read books for fun. A lot of people read books for fun. With games, it kind of that replaces it for me. It's not a it's a form of stress relief, like anything else that
Agreed.
anyone has. Um, I don't play games competitively. It's just like I said, a form of relaxation. I normally play games on mostly easy mode unless it's ridiculously easy to the point where like I can't even finish a combo or do something without the enemy dying. Kingdom Hearts 3. Um, but that's the role that they essentially have in my life is entertainment, stress reduction, 2 kids, wife, dog, mortgage.
The life.
Yeah, a lot of stuff, but it definitely helps with that um, entertainment. And I've actually found out like I can't play certain games like I used to back in the day. Certain things just interest me now more or respect my time more. Um, so I'm constantly at war in my head about these things, about like where do I put my time? Where do I put my time? That's the hard thing to kind of deal with or come to terms with sometimes. And over the course of the years, I'm figuring this out. So um, that's the role I have in my life.
Good answer.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, not to mirror it, which I'm sure a lot of people probably mirror the same ideas, but I mean, it's a stress relief. You have a rough day at work. A lot of time, first thing when I'm not coaching in the afternoons, I got, an hour or two window sometimes where I get to just go home, sit down and just play games with no interruptions, no one bothering me. It's kind of like lets me reset my brain before the kids get home and before the wife gets home, so that way it's like I can be in a better state of mind if I've had a bad day. And also it's a good way to connect with my kids a little bit too, mainly my son, because he likes to play video games. And um, I'm excited for when he's able to play more complex type games as opposed to just like the Lego games or Minecraft, where it's pretty mindless for the most part. But my girls never had much of an interest. Every once in a while, they like to play like Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, those kind of things. Um, but just branching that little bit of a gap of my likes with them, so that way we can find other common grounds. But same with kind of like you said with reading too. I mean, I do read, but I have a very narrow lane of stuff I like to read. Otherwise, it just doesn't interest me, and I don't know. I just like to play it. I mean, and kind of fill up my free time the best way I can.
To be fair for your son, some of those Lego games are actually kind of hard. The Batman one I do not do well at.
Is there no easy mode?
No, it's just like you should be able to figure this out, this puzzle, and I'm like, this game is
No,
glitched.
I agree.
I'm
Some
pretty
are
sure
some are
that
difficult.
yeah.
Like
this is glitched. So
But yeah, I mean that's pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah, with me, gaming, a big part of it is like just hanging out with friends. Like,
Mm.
because I don't really like playing a lot of solo games. Like, it just gets boring for me to do things on my own. It's just a really nice way to like be able to hang out with my friends, especially one certain friend I am on with almost every night. We are just constantly playing games together, and it's like a really nice way to stay in contact and be able to hang out, even though we can't really like see each other in person. And it's better than just like being on a call because then we have something to talk about. We have like a center of topic, and it's just a really nice way to even interact with people, which is also kind of the reason why I started doing streaming was because it's a way to get more out of gaming. I feel like just because I can then interact with people, and I like it a lot when like people come into chat and stuff, and just like social interaction. That's the main reason and the main thing that it is for me.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't think of that either. I mean,
No.
that's why we're all sitting here, is literally for that reason he just
Yeah.
said.
I mean-
to spend time and hang out with our friends when we don't have the time.
You can't change your
physically
answer now.
to do
Well,
it.
well, and the older that we get, though, too, like I feel that because we don't have to like trying to get together and trying to coordinate things is so hard. Like that's why I tell you guys all get on chat. And Rob's like, I don't know how to work this thing, and
Trying
Luke's
to
like
figure it out.
and Luke's like my headset doesn't work.
It doesn't.
for
For a
like
year
for,
and a
for like a
half.
year and a half. It
It's
doesn't
been
work.
like 3 years now.
And
I'm
but-
like,
other
Luke, I will
dad
buy you a
excuses.
headset.
Could you buy me a headset as well, please? I don't have one.
Well, you know, it's gonna be one of those $7 like skull candy earbuds things,
Hey,
which I've had
if it
mine.
works,
it,
that's
it
fine.
works.
It doesn't cut out if I talk more than 160 characters. Yeah, that seems to be my limit.
So that's a good point. For
Yeah,
sure.
Ethan, for sure. Because I feel like from our generation, it was an isolating thing. Not 100%, but I think that's maybe what most people who don't game think of it as. Is they're like, well, they're just in their room all alone all the time. It's like, well, we used to go to each other's house and play Nintendo or Xbox or whatever. But even then, it was like most games were one player, maybe two player, and so you were just passing a controller. And now, even when you can't get together, you can still be together by gaming. Like that's one of the coolest improvements to me in just gaming overall. At least one of the recent ones is like making it truly a social experience. Like you're not just holed up in your room all by yourself. You're on your headset, hanging out with your friends whenever you want. It's very cool.
That's cool.
Role that gaming plays for me in life. Again, you don't want to sound like a broken record, but obviously there's some entertainment factor. For me, it's like I play mostly third-person adventure games, and it's like diving into a good book. I still like to read, but there's such immersive stories, and you get to be a part of them. If I just veg out and I turn on Netflix or something, I'm not really engaged in it, and I'm far more likely to fall asleep watching that versus like actually playing a game, and I usually walk away and be like, man, that was awesome. Or there's some games like Last of Us that have some moments to them that shake your brain up a
heavy.
little bit. It's
Yeah, I barely made it past the beginning. I was like,
oh, it's
Not
so
engaged.
good. The ending is
no,
such a
the beginning
great...
to the game was so heartbreaking.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah,
I
man, I
know.
don't think I could go on this
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
I watched a Let's Play of the first and the second one all the way through because I know I can't play those games because they're like more like stealthy type thing, and I can't stealth. Like I can't. I'm
It's
gonna
pretty
die.
scary when a clicker
Yeah.
grabs you too. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Oh yeah,
terrifying.
yeah. Like I said, stress reduce.
Not-
Stress reduction. Yeah.
But I like that, kind of like being a part of the movie, and with the graphics getting so much better in the animations getting so much better, it just really draws me in, and I like to hear the stories and see the worlds that people create. That part's really awesome for me, and over my lifetime, it's been a lot about friends. My mom called me and my buddy Butch into school sick, both of us. We spent a lot of time together, so the office was like, that's fine. But she called school to let us stay home to get Grand Theft Auto 3 and play it together. That was my birthday present, right? It was like hanging out with my buddy and like meeting Rob. I met him in my second ever job at a video game store, and it's been this friendship for more than 20 years. The manager, some of the people that I worked with at that store, like Mike Connolly. Shout out to Mike Connolly, 2 episodes in a row. We're also
Have
friends,
to start paying us.
right? Because of gaming. It keeps me tied to people. Luke and I had known each other and been kind of around the same circles, but when we figured out we had this shared passion, it just lit it up. And so it's an entertainment, but it's also a friendship part for me.
That's
For
fantastic.
sure. Well, I have to follow up on that. That's the hard part, being the last person with the
Yes,
question.
it is.
I've gone through a couple things. I think, and I agree with everything everyone has said here. That's not my answer, but I'm just saying that. But I think really what the role gaming is playing in my life currently is opportunity, because through video games, through gaming with you guys and with other people, and just experiencing what gaming can do, we're creating a lot of opportunity now to do. We're doing this. We're having a podcast talking about video games. If video games weren't around, we weren't this passionate about it, we wouldn't be doing this, and just all the things that you guys listed off. So it's really just opening up all new worlds for me.
Awesome. And before we go on to the next part of the question here, I want to piggyback off of what Josh said. And I want to challenge the people who say books are better, because they're not.
Okay.
They're not. The
let's-
video games are more interactive. You
Learn to
have to
read,
read
kids.
too. You have to read.
If you don't
have to
read, you end up pronouncing Reese's as Reese's. So
I
I don't
put-
need another point. I
That-
think.
Someone sound off in the comments again. Reese's versus Reese's. Reese's is the correct pronunciation. But you have a lot more that you're trying to keep track of when you're playing a game versus reading a book. But people are lazy. That's what I'm saying. That might be a hot take.
And that is another segment of Rang's Wrong Hot Takes.
And I'm bringing something else to the table. I think that webtoons are better than both.
Anyway, continuing on.
Anyways,
Moving
next
on-
question.
Moving on with the topic at hand of roles in gaming. Where did it start? Like, what started it for you? What really got you into it? I mean, obviously, we all probably have a very detailed history in it, so we don't want to get too long-winded on it. But for me, I remember my first experience with video gaming was when I was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5. Next door neighbor of mine had an NES, and I would always go over there every chance I got to play Castlevania, Ninja Turtles, Mario. There was a baseball game we used to play all the time when I used to be a sports guy, but I can't remember what that was.
What system
RBI
was it for?
baseball.
NES.
NES.
It might have been
Bases
RBI.
loaded.
Or it could have been. Yeah, it might have been.
I
It
was a
probably
bases
both,
loaded
honestly.
guy. Yeah.
But really,
fair.
Yeah.
and through my life, I grew up with a single mom, 3 kids. We didn't really have a lot of money, and my mom wasn't really against video games, but she wasn't really pro video game either. So a lot of my gaming came from birthday money, Christmas money, where I'd have to go out and buy something that was already discounted on sale that everyone else had already played. So I'd say it was about 2001 when the PS2 dropped, was when kind of right when I really started getting into gaming, because I had a job. I was able to buy whatever I wanted, which got me into debts, so that sucked. But despite all that, I mean, I would say for the past 20 years, being it's 2021, I'd say it's been a pretty solid ride for 20 years. But I started with the NES, and now I'm at the PS5. So
Yeah, my very first gaming experience was with a really old Wii that was older than I am. It was,
Ouch.
I think I was 5 or 6 at the time, and I was extremely excited about it because I was really interested in video. I really wanted to play video games, but I didn't really even know what they were at the time. But I was like, video games sound cool, so I wanted to do them. It was before I think of it. I think it might have been when I was like 4 or 5 actually, somewhere around there. But there was the original Skylanders game had come out around that time, and I always played that all the time.
R.I.P.
I was really invested in that. I played up for like the all 4 of those series of the game, and I would also play a monster truck game for a while. I think that was actually the first game I played, but I remember I stopped because there was 2 monster trucks that were really small and they were pink and they always beat me and I couldn't get past that race. It was on top of rooftops and I just couldn't beat them.
Sounds really intense.
Yeah.
And I also had a Game Boy that I had a like side scroller Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game, and I was in love with those. I would just play it like all the time. So those were like the 4 games that kind of started off gaming for me.
Man, that's solid. That I always love like the list of games that go through your head when you think about what got you started in gaming, and it's so hard to pick a definitive one. There's just like moments, right? And I also love this because I get to go after our youngest member, who just said the Wii that was super old, and my first ever gaming system was an Atari 2600.
Ooh,
And so we
that's retro.
yeah, I went
Nice.
over to
Nice.
my grandma's house and my uncle CJ had one. And he had just left it at my grandma's house. And I started playing Barnstormer and Spider Man. And I mean, just like all of these games. And when we got back, my parents were like, oh, I guess we'll get him one. You know, like it was, I mean, I think the Nintendo was already out, but my parents weren't going to dive in and just buy us an NES. And so I played so much Mrs. Pac Man. Like I literally like I don't know if that game has an end because if it does, we would have hit it. We would just play every day,
I don't think it does.
all of the time. And then after that, right, we got to pick up an NES and just like a lot of kids, Super Mario Brothers 3 was
Yep.
a thing, right? And but I think like the moment that gaming took hold was the first time that I bought my system and it was a PlayStation 1.
Mm.
And
That's
then,
when shit got real.
yeah,
With the PS1.
Mhm.
well, and the first thing I did because the system had been out for a little while and I had played it over at friends' houses, and my brother Jason had one. But when Metal Gear Solid came out, I played it at Video Games Etc. They just had a standalone unit, and I bought it, and because they finally came out with the DualShock, which was the first time that PlayStation had included a rumble feature. And I went home and I connected it to my TV and I hit play, and the first thing is a helicopter scene, and the controller started to shake, and I was just like this is like flip a fucking table cool. You know, like this is so crazy. And I was just locked in from that moment. I was like, this is gonna be a part of my life forever. So that was my beginning of gaming.
Josh
Fantastic.
For sure. You're welcome or I'm sorry.
Not as bad as being Andy Hard.
That's diamond in the rough. It's a beautiful thing. Bless you.
What was yours?
But,
Luke?
I started probably around the same time as you guys did. I remember I have distinct memories of not having a gaming system at that point, probably being 4 or 5 years old, but playing it at another person's house. I played um, Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, not Link's Awakening, but A Link to the Past when I was probably like 5 or 6. And my uncle had the SNES there, and I just remember just being so riveted on, that in the interaction between the controller and the screen, and just being so sucked into playing as the character and wanting to explore, and just this interesting story, with Legend of Zelda. I think before that I played the first Mario on NES, and once again that was just something that just I was just hooked into it, and since then I've always just been a gamer. I think that's been like one of my earliest defining features in my personality was like video games kind of at the beginning for me.
If Duck Hunt didn't blow your mind as a kid, there's something wrong with you.
Duck Hunt was awesome.
So great.
Duck
you
Hunt
seen
was
the-
awesome.
They made a VR horror like game based around Duck Hunt. I'm
Really?
pretty sure. Yeah.
That's
Um,
beautiful.
like basically the dog like came out of the TV or something and is like evil and wants revenge because like you can
Right.
shoot the dog
Yeah.
And like,
Like goofy
He was
laugh.
sick of that.
yeah, he was sick of it. Yeah.
That might have to be a future stream. I I would love to hear people if you're watching this like in the comments. I'd love to hear like what's your start to gaming because I just think that's such a fantastic question.
Yeah, yeah. Mine was NES, regular Nintendo. My dad had one. Um, that I think he said that he got like his mom gave him when they got married, which is totally cool. I could be wrong on that, so I might have to fact check with him.
That's better than the ring. I mean,
But anyways, I mean, I would get into games like Bases Loaded, Blades of Steel, which couldn't be any farther from what am into right now because I do not enjoy sports games for the most part. Not at all. But those were the kind of games that I was into. Yeah, we'd get into the Mario's and stuff like that, but mostly my dad and his buddy would come over and drink a bunch of beer and they'd take turns playing Mario. I would get and this maybe it might have been my obsession with actually watching people play games too because I do enjoy that to a certain extent like watching people play certain games and they would be and they said he told me he's like you would get so into it Andy you 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 would see us trying to struggle through like a thing and you would be just mirroring like what we was get get it, you cocksucker. Come on, you bastard. And I would be saying, he's like, you need to calm down. But I would just get so into it. And I think that's probably where that had started for me. But yeah, that NES, it triggered a whole line of events that led me to kind of where I am and what I like today, which is fantastic. But yeah, numerous amounts of stories, different ways that I went to. I mean, there was one time, like probably in the middle of my whole gaming time, that where I would own every single console. I wouldn't play half the stuff, but I would own every single console, and my old friends
We've
know me
all been
for
there.
know me for trading things in. Like not playing this, just go trade it in.
and then
You know,
buy it again
gotta get
next
my
week.
value for it. But yeah, where I started, humble beginnings, Super Nintendo, cursing at the TV like any normal 5-year-old would.
Yeah. So the next question is kind of like, how has the role of video games changed throughout your life? Um, with mine, uh, because it originally started off as all single player games. Like all those things that I said earlier were all single player, or at least that's how I played them. And after that, I think the next like role of video games in my life was on a Kindle Fire. I would play like mobile games, and they were all single player as well. But I would play them with my friend who would come over after school, and he'd have his iPad, and I'd have my Kindle Fire, and we'd get like the same mobile games, and we'd just kind of play it together, just like doing good on them. And then I think Minecraft was like the first multiplayer game that I really got into. That and also Call of Duty was also one that I got into, but that was in like the next phase, which was the PS4. Was like kind of like the next step in gaming for me was the PS4, and that one was the major amount of my like gaming career. I started off with I think Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, I think, was like the first one I really started off with, as well as Assassin's Creed Black Flag and Assassin's Creed 3. And with the Call of Duty games, I remember one time, I was living with my dad and my step siblings, and they would call people a pussy when they were like camping and stuff. And I didn't know that that was a bad word. And there was a kid, somebody camping, and in front of my dad, I'm like, he's being such a pussy. And then
Boy speaks the truth.
I got
Campers are pussies.
I got in a deep shit for that. But yeah, I
That's
think
fair.
around
Rightfully so. Yep.
I'd say like mobile. Once I started moving to mobile games, it started becoming like a little bit more social aspect than PS4. It was it started with PS4. It's starting off with just like the kind of a little bit solo, it's kind of a little bit multiplayer. But then I think as I just kind of progressed in age, it just expanded into being something that I just wanted to do with other people. I wanted it as a form of connection with people, and it just continued from there on to where I am now with the PS5.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah, I would. I don't. Mine's been kind of a slow evolution, and I don't think that there's too far of a distance between beginning and end.
Mhm.
Honestly, I mean, when I was younger, it played such a huge role in my life. I wanted to be good at gaming. I was playing hard things. I was constantly trying to like beat games. To be able to have conversation with the other people that were playing a crazy amount as well. It was one of my first jobs and one of the jobs that I really wanted to go into. Like I wanted to write for Game Pro magazine when I was a kid.
Game Pro.
And then I
yeah.
realized like that's writing is just not a very inherent talent for me. And so I just completely
tough.
Apparently, books are bad. You just
yeah,
can't-
never read
Lazy.
Andy Rang.
Lazy.
But I never thought about it as further as an industry, and sometimes I kind of wish I would have. Now they play much more of a role of connection, right? It's just an entertainment form. I'm a fairly casual gamer at this point, but it's still I think between those two spots, like it still kind of holds the same place in my heart. It's still very, very something that's very important to me.
Cool.
What about you, Luke?
I would say actually one of the most interesting developments of gaming for me is my mentorship towards other people when I game. Like we've been talking about how playing Dark Souls 3 or Bloodborne, I've been leading Ethan through that, and Josh and another friend and I have played through most of the game, and even things with my son like Minecraft or Lego games, or I'll talk to him about like, when you're older you can play, Souls games, and I really enjoy that aspect of it, of becoming like a teacher, someone who's guiding you through this, like, hey, we're at the boss, this is what's going to happen, and giving you encouragement. And playing through Dark Souls 3 with you was a lot of fun too, because you were like,
You
nope,
had to do a
nope,
lot
nope
of
the whole
teaching.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So-
plus it also gives you the chance to be excited about what you've already done,
Right.
Because you're doing it again
Yep.
with somebody.
With someone who hasn't done it before, and you get to see their reactions.
Their
which
horrified
is
face when the boss comes out,
which
of the
is super
shadows or
cool.
something. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, just I think that's just an awesome part of it now, is like now me taking all of the skills and knowledge I developed over my whole life, and now like I give this to you, like be a better player than me.
I don't think I have ever done
Be
that
a
once.
better
I,
player
I
than me.
cannot. I'm not good at video games like Andy. I'm not good at them. I just like playing them. I will not be a better player. I'm sorry.
No,
You
were-
can't
you were
can't
kicking
say
ass in
that and be a
Bloodborne, so-
streamer.
Don't
Oni
worry.
Ryu,
No,
Don't
you
worry,
can be,
Padawan.
You don't have to be good at video games to be
the Oni Ryu.
No, I
yeah.
I just go by Ryu.
Right.
So yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. The role has changed for me a lot over the years. I know it started more of like single player because that's kind of just what it was. God, I can't remember the amount of hours I would spend. Once I found out what Final Fantasy was, I like no lifed Final Fantasy. Like
It
it's
truly was your Final Fantasy.
yeah, and then I branched
still
out
is.
into other RPGs. I'm like, oh, these are just like really long books where I get to pick all the spells.
You didn't
Yeah,
read
so
any of them, did
but
you?
then it got to a point where you would see it got to the point of the MMO, something grander, something more epic than you've ever experienced in gaming before. Like you would go together with these large communities, okay? You would take down these seemingly impossible foes. You would get loot, you would upgrade stuff. That sense of progression. When it changed when I found out what those were, and I never really had access to because I never really had a PC up until oh my god, what it was probably I'd probably say sometime around high school when I actually had a PC that I could play games on. And by that point, I mean, there were original EverQuest was, way deep into it. Um, but there was when I found those types of games, that's when it changed it for me, and that's when I wanted to. I just wanted to play those all the time, but a lot of it was very difficult because you had to play with people you knew, and I wasn't really very good at like just like how do you go and you make friends online or whatever. Like I mean, it wasn't a thing that I was really used to. Like talking with people through like IM or AOL chat or whatever. It wasn't something that I normally did. But it got to the point where I was trying to find exactly which one is going to be that thing for me. But then I got older. You go to college, and then you have a family, and then damn it, now I can't put in the time to do an MMO now. Now I don't have the time to put into an MMO. And that's when I found Final Fantasy 14, our Lord and Savior.
Oh no, it
It
comes
is
out.
everything to me. Everything. And that game respects your time. It has this grand scale of just something bigger that's happening. I could go on forever about that game. And I wish I was able
We've
to
all heard
shut up, you like it too. But I wish I got into those older MMOs. I wish I had like a bigger, like an actual group, because I would have been Cheeto Boy in the beanbag chair. I would have no life that until my parents were worried about me, like, because those games look so cool, but like I didn't have that group, because you needed that group, you needed that in order to get into it, and that was the thing kind of gatekeeping me out of it
Mhm.
necessarily, and it was my own fault for not pursuing it, but and like I said, the idea of the MMO, and that's why Final Fantasy 14 has stuck for me so much, because it's every one of those things. I play it with a group of friends now, but it's also very like solo based, that you could do a lot of things solo on it. And I'm realizing I don't have to do everything in that, but I get everything out of it that I want to, and that feeling is absolutely amazing. And I'll dabble for sure into other games here and there. More story-based games, or I've been getting a little bit into Forza 5. I'd like to cover that a little bit sometime. And it's a very good game, but that is how the role has kind of changed for me. Always going to some single player into something more like, yeah, more around friends, but that MMO, just you're doing something, if what feels like important to me anyways, you know what I mean?
That's cool.
And helping out a team. You've got a role on that team that you're kind of helping fulfill, and that was pretty cool for me.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, role for me, just like Andy said, has changed a lot from teens to 20s, where it was I didn't have family, I didn't have things like that to take up a lot of that extra time. So it was pretty much gaming from sun up to sundown whenever time allowed, and um, you know, also kind of like Andy said, collecting. I used to have every system. This is probably one of the first generations of systems where I haven't owned all three of the main big three systems. Um, but like as I've gotten older, as I've got married, had kids, things like that, those roles have changed. I mean, I still feel um, where I can get to a point where I'll be like, I know I haven't played games in a while, because I just have that gnawing at my brain, like you need to sit down and just for an hour and play a game, just to kind of let that gnawing. And I mean, I know some people would maybe look at it as an addiction, which is not my issue for sure, which I know they do exist, but it's like, just like anything, exercise. If you don't exercise for a while, if you eat poorly for a long time, anything, if you can't find the way to release those things, then they build up. So that's why I utilize it so much as a stress relief, and I'm glad I do still have a little bit of time here and there that I get to squeeze those things in, especially with having three kids, and they're all busy in extracurricular activities, and the wife is busy with work, so I got to kind of chip in on those things too. So but yeah, for me, like just the role in general still has that stress relief, that the community of getting together with friends when you can't just hang out together, or even
Mhm.
like Luke had said, doing this wouldn't exist if it wasn't for those things.
Right.
So I mean, a lot of my roles, I mean, it's still very important in my life, and I hope that it always is. I always like to joke that I'm going to be 70, 80 years old in a nursing home, like playing video games, and
Heck
like
yeah.
It's gonna be great.
all
Yeah.
those like
Yeah.
young workers, they're gonna be like, what, this dude is playing stuff that's 30 years old, what's wrong with him?
on a TV, not jacked into our brains.
Yeah.
Old man
But
eat
yeah,
your
so I
pudding.
mean, the role is still the same, it's just obviously it's changed with time.
Um, I have a question, and Rang might have already answered his because we already got to hear about Final Fantasy 14.
The best.
But I want to know because like I said, there's always a reel of games that roll through your mind. But kind of lightning round, pick a game that changed your life, either literally or figuratively, and kind of one sentence about what that was. For me, Metal Gear Solid. Millions of great
That's a good
games,
one.
but the Metal Gear Solid series showed me a different level of immersion and a different level of storytelling through that espionage that I just didn't think was possible, and it blew my mind. So, Luke, what was yours? What's the one game, and how did it change you?
I would say one that had such a lasting impact on me was Ninja Gaiden Black for Xbox. That I never had any initiative to play games on a high difficulty. Like, hard mode wasn't something I was interested in. And then I played that as a teenager. And then I got my ass whooped by the first boss multiple times. And then I realized I'm going to have to get really damn good if I want to beat this game. But I beat that game. There was a lot of cursing involved, a lot of frustration, but I actually beat it. And then that translated into games like the Souls series, just like learning to up my own abilities. So
Nice.
Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time.
Ooh.
Oh man, what a game! Second runner-up would be Final Fantasy IX. But Legend of Zelda. That's when I first found out the
One
RPG.
game, Andy.
One. I'm sorry. Yeah, one game. Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina. I thought I had to give a runner-up because I'm like, oh, they both stick out. But Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time for sure. I mean, it's just the shift from 2D to 3D. I
it's
mean,
huge. Oh,
that
man.
did very, very well with that
Yeah.
game. The dungeons were epic. The puzzles were cool.
Except the
Like
water temple.
it just, yeah. Yeah, I mean, looking back at it, it's not as bad as everyone says it is.
No,
It's
there's
not the
been worse
best
things.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it just another game that I could talk to my friends about for hours. Like I could talk about that game just for hours. I was excited to get things like, oh, the hook shot or that,
Yeah.
oh my God, every little thing that you would get. And it was just, even the commercial. I remember the commercial for it, and there was like this orchestral type deal going on. But yeah, that was the game. Huge epic. It was a great transition from a 2D series going to a 3D. They did it very successfully.
Agreed.
Rob.
For me, it would be Final Fantasy VI. It wasn't my first RPG in the series. I played 4. I played Mystic Quest before those, but I would have to say 6 is what pretty much cemented my love for just the RPG genre in general. I mean, a huge cast of characters, all of them, unique. They all had their own unique ability. Yeah, so you could just tweak your party any way you wanted to whatever you see fit. If you want a muscle party, you just put in all the big muscly dudes and just beat everything to death. It was the first game that I played with good storytelling that told a good story and told a good story for each of the individual characters. And it cemented, not only Final Fantasy is probably one of my favorite series of all time, but just the genre of RPGs in general.
Yeah, mine. It is kind of like an answer that I feel like is more
The Pink
one that.
Monster Truck.
No,
Please
I
don't say
feel like
Fortnite.
I feel like it'd be
Please don't say
one.
Fortnite.
It's not. It's not.
Okay.
I feel like it'd be one that's like more like a one that be viewed as a kids kind of type of game, but Minecraft, just because it's kind of like my comfort game at this point, because I will always just play new games and stuff, but Minecraft, there's like near endless possibilities to do things. I mean, right now I'm making a giant 300 by 300 city with. I'm gonna make we're making like an olden Japanese style for one section. One section is gonna be like old America. One section is gonna be like Inca architecture. The other part's gonna be like the Greek stuff. Where it's just you can do so much in it, and I don't feel like I could get bored of it. Because with other games, I kind of just get bored, and then I return to Minecraft. Like Minecraft is just the game I always come
I was
back
gonna say
to.
I'd probably say anytime I see that you're on PlayStation, you're usually almost always on Minecraft.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I'll just get into things where I'll like play a game for a while, but then I'll just come back to that, and it's always a lot of fun. Like, there's been a few times where I've almost gotten kind of bored with it, just because like I'm like, all right, I've kind of done everything there is like left to do, but then I'll make a new world. I'll make some absurd goal, like I'm gonna make a giant 100 by 100 block mine, or now I'm making a 300 by 300 block city, which might not sound that impressive, but like it's insane to do that. And we're
It's a
not
lot of
like
work.
making hollow buildings either. We're gonna try to make all of it into like actual full functioning structures for every single one. And it's on a realm, so we're hopefully gonna try to get some more people in there, and we're gonna try to almost make it like a full functioning like city in the game. Which I mean, that's kind of what
That's
I like
rad.
about it, is that I can always like return to it and be able to do something.
It's good to have like that comfort game,
Yeah.
like that your home base.
It's-
Mine's like Dark Souls, and that's not a comforting place at all. So
Jesus.
Place at all.
It's a terrifying place.
Where I find comfort is nightmares. Bring us
So,
home. Last
okay,
question,
last
Luke.
one.
Let's
Where
round her out.
would you start if you picked up a controller for the first time today? You never played video games. You were like, what is this crazy trend that the TikTok kids are doing? And I don't think TikTok kids are doing it. But where would you start? And I think I would start. I think I would start with the Telltale series because I'm so into story and narrative because I I like books and I like to read
Choose
books.
your own adventure.
Lazy.
So
I heard Telltale's games are better than the book.
They
So-
are.
and I think that like
There you got
very-
quick time events.
I don't like those. They scare me. That and just that immersive narrative, where it's really compelling you to be part of it, and, make choices, and then see how that progresses. I think that would just like with Batman, and well, I wouldn't know Borderlands if I didn't know video games, but like things that would interest me. I think that would just have me zoomed in immediately.
Yeah, I would. This is definitely recency bias, but Kena Bridge of Spirits. I would get my hands on a PS5 and start there. For the style of games that I like and the way that the art has changed over time, watching Ember Labs go from an animation studio that was typically trying to deliver like digital shorts. They have one of the best Majora's Masks shorts out there.
Of course,
Watching,
period Ocarina of Time, by the way.
I know, but watching them transfer over to being a gaming studio, for me, that's a direction that I want to see gaming go, to be even more kind of movie like and epic.
For me, I like one of them. I think one of them would definitely probably be like Minecraft again, just because it's not a hard game. It's really easy to get into, but you can just continue to do it, and you can do much more complex things than just the normal base game. Like there's so much features about it that I never would have even like thought of doing when I first started it. Because like when I first started, I was just kind of like, oh yeah, I can just kill a few thingies and make a basic house and then kill the ender dragon, and that's it. But now like I'm doing insane things like making a giant city, and I'm like doing redstone stuff, which is basically just basic computer coding in a more simplistic form, which is really nice. And I think another one that I might have done would have probably been like Call of Duty game, just because they are the community around those. I don't think I would have wanted myself to, go into the voice chat, just because it's very toxic on there.
Yeah, people
But
want to talk about toxic gaming. Maybe do not grow up in the Xbox life.
Right.
At all.
but yeah, I think I'd probably choose one of those two, just because with Call of Duty, it's more of an introduction to like. There's a lot of people. Everything that you're interacting with is another person, and it's just interaction with other people, and I think that's something else that's a big part of gaming.
I don't know. This is kind of a hard question.
It's
I
a hard
guess,
one. Yeah.
I mean, being all of us that have been so invested in gaming, it's kind of hard to decide where to start. So, I mean, with my kids, they've started with whatever I was currently playing, kind of thing. They've never really played a lot of the old stuff just because it's never really been around. But I think if it was me walking into a situation where I'd never played a game before and I would start right now, I would probably have to start with some of the classic stuff. Mario, keep it simple. Because I know a lot of things are complex now with gaming. So
That's
you
true.
take somebody that's never touched a controller before and say, here you go. Case in point, we were talking Spider-Man the other day. Recently started playing that again, and I have
So
no
good.
idea what I'm doing because I
So
don't
good.
remember any of the buttons. So it's
Right.
just good old classic, either Atari, one button, one joystick, or classic NES with the D-pad and two buttons.
It's a good place to
Yeah,
start.
Yeah.
rock an emulator or something.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really hard question because like that is that you have to change your mind and be like, okay, now you're just think of it this way, you're a different person, okay? Yeah, entirely. Like because normally what I've grown up with, I've always been a gamer, always been interested in games, always talking about games. So to go back and have a mindset of like me not into that, I'd probably play Animal Crossing,
Start, man. Yeah.
or one of the Harvest Moon games because that's something I can wrap my head around real easily. You know, you plant the crops, you water the crops, you pick the crops, you talk to your neighbors, you give them gifts. I mean, it's fun. It's a little interaction, you know, with these things. It's kind of pseudo like multiplayer. I mean, it's got multiplayer aspects just because you've got the different people in your towns and
The illusion
whatnot.
of
That you,
community.
yeah. Stardew Valley. That's on a more complex level, I think, as far as systems work and everything like that. I mean, compared to your normal like Harvest Moon or even Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing pretty simplistic overall. But yeah, I think I would probably get into something to that, maybe a little bit more lighthearted. You know, I mean, like you said, not jumping into something like super complex or
Right.
whatever. I mean, hey, maybe in this life, maybe I'm more into books. Like I don't know, maybe I know how to read. I don't know.
Maybe if you learned how to read, you wouldn't have to play video games.
Yeah, right? Well, you know, and I kind of have to know how to read to play Animal Crossing because they sound like that, like all the time.
Animalese.
Yeah, Animalese. Yeah. So yeah, I would definitely start off with something like that, something easy to grasp, something that I mean, a lot of people play. You know, um, if I had the same wife and kids, which I don't. I mean, that's also weird not being a gamer and then having because my son is like real. He's always on his Switch. Um, and my wife, I met her, she was a gamer, but she was into Animal Crossing and stuff like that. Still kind of is for the most part. Pokemon, okay. Ooh, Pokemon.
I know.
That might have been
Yeah,
another
that
one
would've
too. Now that I
looked
say
all
that,
nice.
yeah.
Here's your
Sure.
first introduction to video games. Beat the crap out of animals with other animals.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is America. This is what freedom is about, Rob. This is what freedom is about.
Oh no.
Going back to, if you
Nope,
would've
it's
done
not about
another life-
animal fighting. That is not
It's
what
the
freedom
choice
is
you get
about.
to have.
This
That's
is why
that-
it's important to read books.
That
Yes.
makes your choice.
If you could have had another life and you could have read books, you would have pronounced it Reese's.
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 It's a 4-1 here. You lose.
Like the monkey.
Sound
Then
off
you
in the
should
comments.
definitely
Reese's,
not
the correct
fight.
version, or Reese's, the Neanderthal version.
Reese's,
All right.
the way that it's actually pronounced, the correct way to say it.
God, I hope someone debunks this for better or for worse. I need to know now.
All right.
Man,
but
Someone
anyway,
fact check
And
us.
that's our podcast.
Yes.
As a
Yes.
reminder, don't fight animals. That is a choice you could make that will definitely land you in prison for a really long time. Sound off in the comments for real. We would love to hear what role gaming has played in your life, some of your favorite games. This is a great topic to just get to know other people and what they're playing. And that's definitely what we want to do. We want to hear from our community, and hopefully we can produce even better podcasts and more interesting topics for everyone. So, like us on Facebook, find us on Instagram. That might be harder than you think. Check
the
out our
challenge.
I
YouTube.
feel
Watch some of.
personally called out here.
Just find us
Watch
on
some of our
Facebook.
streams.
Facebook is a
Just find
safe-
us on
yeah.
Facebook. Watch a YouTube video here or there.
And keep on the lookout for our big events, which will happen in March, April, and then also in November with the live streams, which we use to raise money for this kick-ass community that we have here in Dubuque.
That's what we do. All right.
Rad Gamer Dads, thanks again. It's a
Peace.
pleasure.
Love y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Also follow my Twitch. I'm desperate, please.